So let's bring this all together. Let's come to some conclusions. We don't say that the Bible is eternal or sent down or was complete. Yes, we would say that. And that it has been changed. We would say, of course, it's been changed. It's the Muslims that make this claim. As long as I've been working with Muslims for 30 plus years, this has always been the same recurring theme. The Qur'an is unique. It is unlike the Bible. The Bible has been corrupted, been changed, been manipulated, been accreted, been deleted, but not the Qur'an. Not the Qur'an. The Qur'an is unique in the world. They say it is the only text where we can go back to the original, where we can find those originals. They still exist today. The manuscripts exist, and they're complete, and they're unchanged. I've heard this so many times. Shabir Ali has quoted this. We've got him on audio saying that the Matl manuscript is complete, and it's unchanged, and it's from the 7th century. That the Samarkand manuscript is complete, and it's unchanged, and it's from the mid-7th century. So certainly Muslim scholars have made this claim, and they're still hearing it. You can still hear them on YouTube. Even Muslims on the street say this. At Speaker's Corner, they still make this claim that the Quran is unique. It is unlike any other revelation. Bible has been corrupted because it has been changed, created, deleted, manipulated, all the way. But not the Quran. Not the Quran. I think what we have shown now is that the Quran has been changed enormously. And what's more important, it's not just been changed accidentally. This is not the case. We're not saying it's been changed accidentally. These are intentional changes. These are changes that have come from above, from the caliph of each of these periods. It's the caliph who are doing these changes. It's the caliph who is directing that these corrections be made, these accretions, these deletions. We've seen that now for every one of these manuscripts, these 6 major manuscripts, and also the other 4 that Dr. Brubaker referred to. All of them have been changed. Every one of them have been intentionally corrected. Every one of them have been uniformed, bringing to uniformity, a standardization with what we now know today as the 1924 text, the 1924 Codice. 1924, that's less than 100 years ago. Which suggests pretty strongly that these intentional changes along the way were creating the manuscript. And these changes, intentional, remember the word intentional, that means they're done by men. This is nothing more than a man-made document. Manipulated all the way through, changed all the way through, corrected all the way through, putting in insertions, erasing other parts, slapping on these coverings, putting on these tapings, and then writing over top of the coverings, writing into the insertions, sometimes not even wasting the time to erase it, writing over top the erasers. This is what Brubaker found, showing that this was done rather hurriedly and that they wanted to make a standardized text so that when al-Bukhari finally wrote about this, but look at the date that al-Bukhari wrote this. Al-Bukhari died in 870. So this has been written about in the late 9th century. By the time al-Bukhari wrote about how the Quran was written, 240 years after Muhammad's death, that's what he thought was happening. But all we can say now, and what Muslims are dependent on, is not something from the time of the Prophet or even from the century that comes after the Prophet. Everything that Muslims can tell us today comes from 2 centuries, more than 2 centuries after the Prophet. Muslims are totally, completely dependent on al-Bukhari to know how the Quran was written. Unfortunately now, it's not al-Bukhari who has it correct, having written 240 years later. The Quran itself is exposing itself. The manuscripts are showing and proving to us that they were corrected, they were changed, they were being manipulated, they were being accreted, they were being deleted right up until the 9th century. And that's just as far as we've got now. It could be that they were still correcting it up until the 10th century because we still don't know when the Quran was canonized. Now, Shabir Ali seemed to suggest that the debate that this was 1924. I'm not going to go with 1924. I'll put my hand down, and I would probably put down the gauntlet and say this probably was brought together as a final codified text in the 10th century. Can I prove that? No. I can certainly prove that it wasn't the 9th century and the 8th century or the 7th century. But possibly I'm willing to go with the 10th century. That's 300 years after Muhammad. Therefore, if the Quran does not get canonized, does not get solidified, does not get standardized, does not come into uniformity until that late, then that proves that the Quran is not eternal. was not sent down to a man named Muhammad. In fact, I would suggest it had nothing to do with Muhammad. We're going to talk more about that later, because Muhammad has a lot of problems. That's for another series of talks. And certainly not the time of Uthman, 650. So when was it changed? That we're going to get into later. But can you see what we have just now proven? These 4 claims that the Muslims make, which we don't, can no longer be used. And I would ask Muslims to stop making those 4 claims. Just stop saying that the Qur'an is eternal. Stop saying that it was sent down to a man named Muhammad. Stop saying that it was complete to the time of Uthman. And please stop saying that it's unchanged. Please just stop saying it, because you can't prove either of those 4. We would never make that claim. But hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. We have another word of God, another logos, the word of God. Ho Theos, who was the God, it says John 1:1 and John 1:18, who took on human form and entered time and space and became a man. This Logos, who is our final revelation, our greatest revelation, his name is Jesus Christ. See, he's also called the Word of God, like the Bible is called the Word of God. But what's interesting, that Word of God, Jesus Christ, he is eternal, yes? He was sent down, yes, to earth for 33 years. He was complete, and he has never changed. Ooh, the very 4 things the Muslims are looking for, we've already got in Jesus Christ. Come on home. The very thing they want, we have. Muslims, you need to come home to the real Word of God, the real revelation from God, God's holy Word himself, the eternal Word of God, the Logos, Jesus Christ. What a man for today. What a revelation for today. And what a Word of God. This is Jay, over and out.